I've just sold two of the most important watches in my collection. Well, actually, three. Let me explain. So, I think I've made no secret over the past couple of years that my favourite watches to collect have either been retro reissue watches, retro inspired watches, or alternatively military inspired watches. And as such, my collection over the last few years has built up around these core principles. Now, one of the biggest problems that watch collectors like myself often think about but rarely talk about is the size of a collection. And my collection size has been ballooning as of late. I've had numerous new pickups this year, numerous new pickups last year, and I had to start doing roundup lists and I had to start doing top 5 lists just to stop myself from investing in more watches. Yes, you can flip them and sell them, but a lot of the time you're getting less money in than you are getting out. And if you're trying to budget and if you're trying to build other things around it, for example, I will be buying a house soon next year and I've got other investments which I need to be aware of, you have to put watches in the back seat at least for a little bit. Another issue with watch collecting, which again is rarely mentioned, is evolving styles. Now, when I first started watch collecting, and you can see in the channel all the way back, is I liked a larger watch, and I still do like large watches. The Breitling Avenger GMT, which unfortunately is one of the watches that I have sold, is quite a large and meaty watch. However, during lockdown I gained more weight. I also had an operation around then as well on my gallbladder, top of gaining weight from all those lockdown pies that people eat, and my wrist was able to pull off larger sizes, hence why I had the Tudor Black Bay Heritage 41mm, hence why I went for the Breitling as well. Now, in the last few years, my style has evolved, but along with my style, my wrists have actually shrank a little bit, and now I have definitely a smaller wrist size and a wrist that can no longer, I think a wrist that can no longer successfully pull off bigger watches. And I'm not necessarily talking about case diameter, it's case diameter, lug to lug width, and then thickness put together. And to put all of this into context, this year, before I went away on holiday in July, I bought two watches for review, and these really transformed the outlook that I had on watches in general. One of them was the Walbrook vintage reissue skin diver that they have, and the second one was the Laurier vintage inspired Neptune. The Walbrook was 40mm in diameter with 12mm thickness, and the Laurier is 38mm in diameter, and again very similar thickness with a domed acrylic crystal. These watches massively changed what I thought a good watch can be and how it would wear on me, and I took those away on holiday, which is quite telling. I took those away on holiday and I didn't take the Breitling or the Tudor Black Bay. And when I came back, I was so enamored with the Walbrook and the Laurier that I immediately decided, and it was a snap decision. I have an ADHD brain, so this is what happens. We make snap decisions very, very quickly. And I just thought then and there, I'm going to sell the Black Bay Heritage 41mm. I'm going to sell the Breitling Avenger GMT. And for good measure, I also thought to myself, I'm going to sell my Hamilton khaki field automatic. I know I have raved about this watch, and I still rave about it as well, but I couldn't keep hold of it anymore because I knew that after wearing some of these newer watches that had been coming in from some of these micro brands, that I just wasn't going to be wearing the Hamilton anymore. I just knew it. The writing was on the wall. So what is next for me and the collection? Well, I think moving forward, I'm going to be more conscious with the watch purchases that I make. And of course, I'll still be bringing in watches regularly into the channel for review, but I think I'm going to be much more stringent and strict about what I keep and what I flip and what I sell onwards. I'm also going to be pooling a lot of money on the side so I can buy that one piece. And I don't think I'll ever have a one watch collection, don't get me wrong. I think I'm always going to be looking to collect watches and to experience watches, but I can see myself moving forward just having one watch that I wear all the time as being my major watch, and having 5 other watches in the collection around it, and sort of keeping it at that level. And I'm not sure what watches are going to stay in there. There's 1 or 2 that will definitely stay in and I'll never get rid of. One of them will be the Bulliver Lunar Pilot, which was a present from my wife, so I'm not going to sell that one. I really love that watch and I appreciate it. And the other one, another gift from my wife, was the Smith's vintage watch as well, which is still working perfectly, which makes an absolutely fantastic dress watch. The other watch that I think potentially is going to be safe is the Walbrook, because it is cheap and cheerful, incredibly well built, and I think it just looks absolutely stunning. That can be my holiday watch, the watch that I will take out and not worry if it gets scuffed or scratched, and continue to wear that watch through any situation, which is quite good seeing as I have 2 kids under the age of 6. So I think, apart from those ones, that anything else in my collection, all of the other watches in my collection, are on a shaky nail and potentially will be sold at some point or another to make way for that one watch that I can then build my collection around. So the first thing I'm going to talk about in terms of what's going to make my perfect watch moving forward is the movement. Now, I actually do not care if I have an automatic movement, a mechanical movement, or a high accuracy quartz movement. As long as the level of finishing on this watch is high and the movement is known as being robust, rugged and reliable, it doesn't matter to me if it's a Grand Seiko style high-end quartz, if it's a mechanical, well-known high precision movement, or if it's an automatic watch that has a lot of bells and whistles on it. That part of it is less important to me than the actual other features of the watch, and that needs to be a sapphire crystal, at least 100 meters of water resistance. It doesn't matter about the extra complications, it's more of the look of the watch. So it can be a chronograph, it can be a GMT, it can be a 3-hander, it can be a dive watch. That part of it doesn't matter, but it's the design of the watch that I'm most interested in. I love vintage inspired watches, vintage reissued watches, and I also really enjoy the military style inspired watches. So in terms of history, my family on my side, my grandfather was a pilot in the RAF. I was in the Army Reserves, 3 Royal Anglian British Army, so I have a lot of buying on that side. But on my wife's side of the family, grandfather was a naval officer, her uncle was in the SAS, and her grandfather was also in the British Army as well, but didn't go into the SAS. So we have military, I guess, backgrounds on both sides of the family. And I'd like to be able to honour that. And finally, the last thing I like to talk about is brands. So I said that brand is important to me. It doesn't need to be a mainstream brand, but it does need to be a brand for a one watch collection that has some history to it, that has some importance to it, whether it's a brand that has been revived since the quartz crisis and has come back, or has always been there as part of a large conglomerate. I want something that has a history behind the watch brand itself. It doesn't have to be military. I think it will need to be military, to be honest with you, given what I've said before. But I also really believe that a watch with a lot of brand history and cachet behind it would really be nice for me to talk about when I speak about my watches in general, and why I'm building, I guess, a smaller collection, more robust collection around this one watch. So my question, I guess, to you guys, and feel free to put this in the comments below. I know that some of you like to comment now, and we're starting to get more comments on the channel, which is absolutely bloody awesome. But tell me, what's your favorite watch that you would have if you had to have just one watch for the rest of your life? I know it's a difficult question to ask as watch nerds, But if you had just one watch for the rest of your life, or you had one watch that you were going to then build a collection out of, what would it be and why? I'd really like to know that from you guys, because I think it will help give me food for thought as well as I'm going through this journey. I'm about halfway saved to where I want to be to do some serious watch shopping. So in the next 4 to 5 months, I think I'm going to be in a position to buy that watch and then start downsizing everything else. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What's your favourite one watch, and what would you build a collection around? Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content, and I'll see you all for some regular programmed review soon. Take care, everyone.